Hello, everybody. I'm Hot Rod Bob, and you've got GAAS, the Great American Auto Scene. And this week we're going to be talking about the Antique Nationals. Now, the Antique Nationals has been going on for quite a few years. We're going to let Clark Crump tell us a little bit about that. And I've been attending it. Well, I can't remember how long ago it was, but it was well over 30 years ago. I can tell you that much. And Clark, how long has the Antique Nationals been going on?
Well, this year we're in our 52nd running of the Antique Nationals. We started off in 1970, is when we first started calling it that. And in 1968, we actually, the first race was ran. I have a poster from the 1968 race.
Wow, look at that.
Not sure if you can see this one.
Sure.
But this was at um, Lions drag strip.
Wow, that is old.
It was put on by Joe Mack and Bob Kretschmeyer. Their names are on the bottom. Joe Mack used to run the antique Ford store in Long Beach there.
Okay.
And they ran it for a year or so, then they decided to give it to our club.
And your club is Forever Ford.
And our club is the Forever Four-Cylinder Club. We started in 1954, and then it moved to, where was it? Orange County International Raceway in 1969. And in 1969, we called it the Bonnie and Clyde race.
Okay.
And I have a Bonnie and Clyde poster from, I'm trying to get this in there.
There you go.
From 69. And this was April. And then there was one in October. Oops. This is the October one. and then by 1970, we got the blue poster, and they called it Antique Auto Races. And on the marquee, I have a video of an 8mm movie. On the marquee, it said Antique Nationals. That was the first year they used that terminology.
I'm trying to think back to when I went for the first time, and it had to have been in about the early 1980s. When I went, it was still at Orange County Raceway at that point in time. And I can remember going down with my future boss, Paul Martinez from Rodding USA. At that point in time, I believe he was working for McMullen Yee, Street Rodder magazine. And we went down to see the race. He was covering the race for the magazine, and I was there just to get a dose of reality, I guess, and be there with the old cars. I was in the process of building my coupe, which I had, right here. Where is it? It's I'm backwards. There it is. And that was 40 years ago that I built that. So that was about 1984. So figure about 1980, 82, 83 is when I went down to Orange County Raceway for that. And unfortunately, we lost Orange County Raceway. But the good part about that, you came up to LA County Raceway, and that's where I was working. So I got to be there and see it all from the tower, and I was the guy talking about your stuff. It's a great event, and I've enjoyed it ever since. And now, well, for the last few years, you've been back to Irwindale at Irwindale Speedway and Drag Trip, where I work now again. And we talk about it. Tell us a little bit about it, because it's not open to every old car. It's got to be a certain gear, and it's got to be fun.
Well, our racing is open up to year 1959. We have special brackets for four-cylinder engines, four-cylinder flatheads, and then four-cylinder overheads. We break them up. And then we have flathead Ford V8s, and inline six cars. And I think even the inline V8s, inliners and flathead Fords all kind of race together. It's bracket racing, so you dial in your times. But to keep it fun and competitive, the flathead and the inliners are kind of grouped together there. So we have a lot of guys with straight Buicks, straight six Chevys, straight eight Buicks, and they've been going for years and years. And it's a real fun event. We also have time brackets for, let's say you have a 1934 Ford with a Chevy, engine in it.
Oh
You
my gosh, no.
you could still run it, and you're in a timed bracket. And the bracket racing makes it a little bit competitive. And then what we've done is if you want to be a heads up racer, then we have some uh, classes for that as well, and some of the top tier brackets. But a lot of guys love heads up racing, and they haven't won. And last year we had two guys that won the Antique Nationals with their brackets, and we're happy as a as a clam, so to speak. So we had some good winners, and the whole thing is the whole day is a lot of fun. The morning time we do um, kind of test and tune and dial it in. You run all morning long, as many runs as you can get in, and you get your timing down. However, so you can get your dial ins. And that's when you could do your grudge match racing against your friends. You just line up in line, grudge match, and basically have fun all day. And then after lunchtime, we start up with eliminations, and we usually get through about 4 o'clock or so.
Now, also going on throughout this, it's not just for guys that are racing. There's show and shine areas too, because you got guys that bring their cars out. You don't necessarily want to race them, but you want everyone to see them, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, a lot of our event is the car show. The car show is kind of easy to get into. Um, it's and uh, we basically fill up the whole end of the track, there with car. We get a good 200 cars, I think, in there for the car show. We get about 100 racers, about 200 cars for the car show entry, and people bring stuff out of the woodwork. They bring some really great stuff, and display old race cars, old cars that haven't seen the day of light for a long time. And we have club members that haven't been around for a long time. They come out and bring stuff that hasn't been out for a long time. We had a front engine overhead, banger show up last year from one of our older club members, family. The Mancias family shows up every year. He's got a four banger flathead with a turbocharger on it in a full size, long rail dragster, and he does pretty good. He's going at least 108 mile, you know, flogging the thing down there. And we have a lot of overhead valve racers in our club that come on out and show off. And Art Moore has been one of the big racers and the winners of the event for a
Now,
long
when you
time.
talk about the overhead, we're not talking about Chevrolet V8s or Y block Fords. We're talking about vintage racing cylinder heads that were developed by many different companies to be put on Ford flatheads, whether it was a four cylinder or a V8. Is that correct?
Yes. So back in the 30s, Harry Miller was one of the first ones to design a conversion for the Model A engine, and he basically built it for trucks because the trucks had the same engine block as a Model A Cooper Roadster. You would be driving around in a double A, pickup truck, hauling, crates of whiskey and beer, and they needed more power.
Yeah, you need more power now. But before that, if you go back far enough, and I hate to bust your Ford bubbles, Chevrolet brothers were making
Yes,
the Fronty Ford or
yes,
Frontenac, and they even took one to Indy, and I believe won in 1917.
yes. The
Someone will
the
correct me
Pontiac
on that.
was developed by the Chevrolet brothers, and they were hopping up the Model T engines.
Yeah.
And we have a class for Model T engines as well. We love our Model T class. But yeah, the Frontenac was the one of the first overhead conversions. But everyone needed a little more power than what Ford originally had planned for. And so by the late 30s, early 40s, racing all throughout America was done on dirt tracks and at fairgrounds all through America, and everybody had a overhead conversion to beat the next guy.
Yeah.
And So there's a lot of manufacturers.
Yeah, and that was before drag racing. There was some racing at El Mirage, there was some racing at Bonneville, but it was mostly circle track racing that caught the attention of racers throughout the country. There were board tracks, there were dirt tracks. You do it at fairgrounds. Uh, the only paved track, and it was cobblestones or bricks, was the Brickyard, Indianapolis,
Mhm.
and that had been going on. That's been going on for about 100 years or so. But other than that, it was all hometown small tracks. We even had a board track in the area now that is housed by the studios, CBS Studios off Fairfax Boulevard. It was a board tracking. Gilmore, which was a fuel company, a refiner and gas station company, they sponsored some of those tracks and even some of the cars.
What did they call that track? Was it the Gilmore Stadium?
Gilmore Stadium, yeah.
Yeah, and then wasn't there another one as well? I know the Agajanian, Ascot name, but
Yeah.
there was one before the Agajanian Ascot. I thought that called
Yes, there
Ascot.
was. Before Agajanian opened up his Ascot, there was another Ascot in Southern California. And I believe there was also a track out at Pasadena for a while. So
Yeah,
there were small tracks all over Southern California. And much like the drag racing scene, people started building homes in the areas and the tracks seemed to go away, which has limited the amount of racing you guys can do. But hey, Irwindale, we're there for you. And
yeah.
we're going to be there. What's the date? Because you changed the date.
It's oh, it's Sunday, April 14th. I'm glad you asked that. It's Sunday, April 14th. And we had a little scheduling conflict, so we moved our date around a little bit. And it's coming up pretty soon. I think in about 3 weeks, maybe even
Yeah.
2 weeks at this point. And plenty of time. You can buy tickets at the gate. You can buy tickets online on the FOAT. But plenty of time to get there. And
Yeah, it's a great event. You really have to if you like the real hardcore old school cars, whether it's a hot rod, a classic, a restored machine, or modified in the way they were done in the good old days before the Chevrolets. Uh, this is the place to be, and it is the antique nationals. And one of the things I keep saying is some of the cars are actually older than the drivers for a change.
yeah, uh, and
Now,
go ahead.
what you're going to bring your car out to? Why don't we tell people about that?
Well, my car is a Model A coupe, and it has a Miller overhead in it. It's called a Denver cast iron version because Harry Miller and I forgot the guy that was his partner, but Harry Miller designed this overhead conversion to make more power for the trucks, and then the hot rodders grabbed onto it, and it was a very popular overhead conversion. But he went bankrupt, and so uh, Prager ended up uh, buying the patterns off of him, and then he built it for I want to say almost 20 years. But they kind of let the patterns go by the wayside, and then another guy picked them up in the 90s and built these Denver cash ones in the 90s. Well, he lost his butt, and another friend of mine named Steve Sir, he decided he wanted to revamp the thing in the 2000s. So he went and paid the debt off at the foundry, got the patterns, but he wanted to do it in aluminum. And his pattern maker said, well, aluminum and cast iron, they don't work together. You got to make all new patterns anyways.
Oh,
So there's a new Miller high speed head that you can look up online pretty easily. It's built by Steve Sir in Ventura. My Denver one is good for about 100 horsepower. His is good for about 120 horsepower with the aluminum. It just flows better and does pretty good. And so he's one of our former four club members. Um, and our club was originally in 1954 by a group of San Gabriel Valley guys that were really uh, four banger enthusiasts. And we have Jim Breyer in the club that makes the four banger cams. and the heads. We have Victor makes Red's headers. Steve Sir makes the overhead cylinder heads. Uh, John Nielsen does machining work and runs at Bonneville. We have guys that run Bonneville, run hill climbs, drag strips. We're basically a racing club, and also back in the day, if you had a streetcar, your streetcar had to be completely finished to be accepted in the club. And we had a really good member that passed away a couple of years ago, but he lived in Downey and his girlfriend lived in Redlands. And he told me stories of he had his overhead 4-cylinder roadster, and that he would drive out to go visit his girlfriend on Friday nights. And he said he would race V8s all the way because there's no freeways back then. He said he would race V8s all the way to Redlands, trying to to get to his girlfriend, and had a blast just beating all the V8s off the line back in the 50s. So pretty good history.
Yeah, doing light to light. Now, if someone wanted to join your club, what are the requirements?
The requirements for joining the club is that you have to have a Model A, or not a Model A. You have to have a Ford 4-cylinder, a Model T, a Model A, 1933, 32, 33, 34. And you have to have 3 speed modifications to the car. So whether it's a updated carburetor, different transmission, some type of speed modification that has created a car as a little bit more than just a stock Model A car. And then you get with the club member, talk to us. You can talk to us at the Antique Nationals, and find a sponsor from the club. We find out, make sure you're a good character and good standing with the community, and you get a sponsor, and then we go to 3 meetings. We have a rule to be at 3 different, usually consecutive meetings, and then you get voted in. You either get, the guy sends you off in the corner, and we either vote you in, or we say, no, you're not our cup of tea. But right now, everyone's our cup of tea. If you're interested in 4 bangers there, we've got about 4 guys on the roster, 4 to 5 guys on the roster that are trying to get into the club right now. So it's really, really good. We need some new membership. So
let me see. I've got a Model A. It's got a 4-cylinder. It's kind of a Mercury Marine 4-cylinder. Does that qualify?
Yeah. Are there modifications to the car?
Oh yeah,
Speed modifications?
It's a hot rod. It's sitting on a Pete and Jake chassis. It's got a 700R overdrive transmission, disc brakes on all 4 wheels. It's a kind of a faux woody. It's real wood, but it's only a 2-door, and it definitely is an overhead valve, 151 cubic inches.
Yeah. What's the cylinder head on?
It's good question. I believe it's a Mercury Marine head.
Oh, the Mercury Marine. Yeah. I think you would qualify.
Okay. Well, we'll talk at the race. You never know. See if I can get it out of the garage and drive it down. I did last year. I'll see if we can get it down again. It's either that or I drive the coupe again. But that's not a 4-cylinder. That's an overhead V8.
Well, and just so everyone knows, the race is not just 4 cylinders. It's put on by our club that's 4-cylinder, but we allow all different types of engines. Like I say, we have classes for the flathead and the inliners, and then we also have time brackets for more modern engines as they go along. But the year cutoff of the car is 1959, and then you just have, I think we have 3 different speed categories. So it works out pretty good.
But it's a fun event. Like I said, I've been going since the early 1980s, and I've enjoyed the heck out of it, especially when I'm the one talking. So I can tell everybody how excited I am to watch the cars, and it's an education too, because although I grew up for the most part in Southern California, the cars you're talking about, they predate the 50s and 60s kind of thing when I was growing up. So you get to see the real historic cars, the history. You're not going to have big fat tires in the back. You're not going to have all the chrome goodies in the billet. You're going to have true representations of what started the hot rodding craze here in Southern California.
Yeah.
All right. So again, what's the date on this?
That's April 14th.
April 14th.
Coming up soon, so Sunday, April 14th.
All right, Sunday, April 14th, Irwindale Drag Strip. Come on out and enjoy. Even if you don't have an antique car, come on out and enjoy the running of these cars. It's a great event. The cars are, you're not going to see nitro dragsters. You're not going to see gassers popping the wheels up in the air. But what you will see is the history and the heritage of hot rodding in Southern California. Is that about right?
And but to clarify, we do have some gaps because our cutoff is 59, and the SoCal Outlaw Gas Group comes out and they have exhibition lane that
Okay.
they're gonna run. And so in between our rounds, it's real fun to watch the SoCal Outlaw Gas Group
So-
on the track, and they have fun, and they are popping wheelies and having and burning up the track. So
Forgot
you
about
get to
yeah,
see a little bit about that.
yeah, Bruce Borgman and Paul Solis. They get the high and mighty Plymouth and the 55 Chevy Bad Obsession. They will be pulling the front wheels a good foot, 2 feet up off the ground, doing some exhibition runs for everyone. And it is cool to see. So, yeah, you're right. I forgot all about the gassers being there, but it is going to be something to see. Come on out. Irwindale Drag Strip, April 14th, 2024. We're back again. 51st running. Is that correct? 52nd. 52nd running of the Antique Nationals. I'm Hot Rod Bob along with Craig Plump. We'll see you there. It's going to be or Clark Crump. How did I mess up your name?
And then just you can look at, you can go to Irwindale Speedway website, or you can go to the float.com, or we have our own club website. It's spelled out forever four. And you search that up, you'll be able to find it.
All right, Forever Four.
Yeah.
Forever Four, Irwindale Speedways, boat.com. That's fastest of all time, boat.com. Get your tickets, or you can get them right there at the gate. They're not sold out. There's plenty of room. Come on out. We'll be seeing you then. Gates open at what time?
It's open at it's basically 8 o'clock.
8 a.m. The track will go hot between 9 and 10, and we'll finish racing at about 4.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, great. Hey, thanks a lot for being with us. Thanks a lot for being here on GAAS, and we'll see you there. I'm Hot Rod Bob, and this is Mr. Crump. We'll see you at the Antique Nationals, April 14th at Irwindale Drag Strip. Have a great day. All right, let's see if we can get this stopped.